Hey everybody, this is JDGaming back today with a deck profile. Today we are looking at my Scythe control strategy that borrows elements from various other popular strategies. Most notable as the one who really pushes for it would probably be Corey McDuffie, our 2014 national champion. Don't know if he's still in the game or if he floats around, but a lot of the inspiration did come from his original hat build that won him his title, as well as just his follow-up on that. And then I went ahead and customized it to my liking based on my metagame. And then I'm here to log this for you guys, just so that I can refer back to it in the future. But if you guys want something that's more of a stun deck, then this will be a great thing for you. So if you want to see the step-by-step process, you can just sit back and relax and enjoy the show. Otherwise, if you want to head over to the end, you can click the annotation on Traptrix Mermilio right here. She'll teleport you to the end of the video where we do the standard alphabetical profile. So main reason I wanted to build this pretty much is I really like stun elements in card games where you can go back and forth. If you play like the Pokemon TCG or anything like that, like there isn't always direct back and forth interaction in the sense that you can't set cards or play instants or traps or anything like that. So I really do think Yu-Gi-Oh is unique in that you're able to play a lot of reactive cards. But the problem is, a lot of times we're focused on combo decks these days, and so it becomes easier to either just join them and play those combo decks, or play a deck that just totally locks them out. Not so much stun as just like total shutdown, and I don't think either of those routes are necessarily always fun to play. Stun is a little more fun, at least because it's more reactive and you're trying to stop your opponent while they're trying to bait out your outs. So it's a little more of a dynamic interplay between players, and that's what we're trying to capture with this strategy. When you look through everything that's available in our card pool right now, probably the best cards at stunning the opponent outright would be the artifact cards. So we're going to start off with a full playset of Sanctum. This of course lets us summon any artifact we would like during the opponent's turn when we flip this thing up. So then that triggers the Moral Attack for a free destruction effect, or one of our Scythes. Now, I know that a lot of people really like Scythe because of its ability to shut off the extra deck for an entire turn. That's really awesome, and I really do enjoy this engine for that purpose. But what I found in testing is if you just play the 3 of these and the 3 of these, as much as I hate dead drawing artifacts and having to set them into the back row, there are times when you just can't do anything with it. Like, you could discard it with Twin Twisters or something, but it becomes this really awkward interplay. If you guys check out my video on the deck Doom Spiral, pretty much I started building like pure artifacts when I started going that route. And I was like, I gotta find some way to escape that fallacy where I like go down the path of what I've already laid down. Having said that, I did decide that I did want to look more into some of the artifacts. So we're playing just a pair of Vigoltak. So the way Vigoltak works is if he's destroyed during the opponent's turn, you get to destroy up to 2 of your own face down spell or traps. Trigger them. If it's your opponent's turn, you'll summon them like the Artifact Scythe and Moral Attack. And a cool combo with this is fairly standard if you're used to artifacts, but you will set the Vigoltak, play the Ignition, which is pretty much MST, but it also lets you set 1 artifact upon resolution. So you play Ignition, destroy the Vigoltak, that sends this to the graveyard, and then immediately will let you set, let's say we set Scythe to the board for resolution. Vigoltak will activate in the graveyard, and that's cool because it will special summon itself, and then it'll destroy your back row. So if it destroys this one, then you get this back. This triggers during your opponent's turn, shuts them down for the entire turn, can't use their extra deck, and then on your turn you're free to seize for a free rank 5 monster, which gives us access to great control cards like Artifact Durandal and Constellar Pleiades. So Vigoltak ends up being like a pretty bad card to draw, but as long as we're playing a full playset of Artifact Ignition and on top of that a pair of MST, I found that it's not too terrible to draw into. Realistically, you do want to match the 2 of these up if possible, so we're going to find more ways to fetch that Artifact Ignition as well. But that's most of our artifact engine. The last card we play here is our single Lancia. So Lancia is relatively new, and it says you can go and pretty much tribute this from either your field or hand to prevent your opponent from banishing for the rest of the turn. And so you can use that to stop just annoying monsters like Caius, regular or mega. You could stop Trishula, you could stop, I don't know, Farfa, you could stop just so many random banishing effects, whether or not it's permanent, and that can hinder a lot of strategies as well if they're not able to like banish for chaos summons or for fueling their monsters. Like whatever you want to do, Lancia could do. So I ended up playing one of this just as a 6-card artifact package, and this is just the beginning of our engine. The next reactive package is, of course, one of my favorites, the Traptrix. We're playing 3 copies of Traptrix Myrmilio, along with some very powerful one-ofs. So we play the Bottomless because it just gets rid of everything pretty much permanently, and it can hit Pendulum Summons. Playing the Time Space to help with Pendulum Summons as well. It's a little costly if you play it on a full thing, but like being able to shuffle away things like Metalfoes Mithrilium without triggering it, getting rid of just large swarms of monsters, annoying monsters like ABC, like you could get rid of a lot with this. It's still worth playing. And then this third slot is really up for grabs. Some people will play Floodgate Trap Hole, and if I were playing in a different metagame, not my own play environment with friends, I probably would consider Floodgate. Void Trap Hole, though, it pretty much says if your opponent summons a monster or monsters with at least 2,000 attack, you can negate the effects of one of those monsters and destroy it. And that's really important if you're playing against something like Frightfurs, where you have a bunch of monsters that are immune to destruction. Similar cases might be something like Stardust Dragon. You can just negate and destroy it. Of course, some of these guys you could just like get rid of with these, but like if you were to get rid of a Fluffle monster using this, like they'll just fusion summon it back again. Like it won't even do anything, so you really need the Void Trap Hole. Again, this is entirely metagame dependent. That's just part of a reactive deck. Some of the choices so far you may look at and be like, whoa, I would never play those in my environment. And that's totally fine. I mean, it just really depends on what decks are you expecting to play against and what cards would be best to react to those. Just be aware of the entire toolbox that's available to you in the pool. To round that out, we're playing 2 copies of Traptrix Dionea. Usually, I would have loved playing this thing, especially back when Lavalval Chain was a thing. I just loved being able to yard Myrmilio or stack Dionea on top of the deck. Can't do that anymore, unfortunately, and typically when that, Lavalval Chain doesn't exist, I only run 1 Dionea. But I really like the ability of bringing back the Myrmilio for the plus, making an Xyz summon, and the reason it works is because the glue of this deck is our Kuribandit. So Kuribandit is kind of an older card now, I guess. It's from the original Dragons of Legend set. Lets you tribute it during your end phase to mill the top 5 cards of your deck. You get to add 1 spell or trap among them to your hand and dump the rest of the cards to the graveyard. So pretty much what this does is it lets you dig for your Artifact Sanctums and your Artifact Ignitions while getting rid of everything that you want to bring back with Dionea, or maybe you want to just, bring stuff back with Call of the Haunted, which is a pretty key card in this deck. It lets you set up all of your plays, makes all of your guys live, and it just accelerates a deck that's otherwise really slow and plays pretty much 1 card a turn. So Bandit is a very useful card. Normally you wouldn't want to play this nowadays because you'd be so liable to just get killed by your opponent, but because we're playing so much reactive hate on the opponent, we are going to be a lot safer running this thing because we'll protect ourselves with our back row. We're not just leaving ourselves open. But, of course, strengthening our defenses is something that we will need to work on just a little bit more to make sure that we are safe. We are going to run 3 copies of Pot of Duality and 1 Upstart Goblin to maximize our consistency. Pretty much the duality is important because your Kuribandit doesn't use a special summon, Normaling Myrmilio doesn't use a special summon, setting Artifact Sanctum to play on the opponent's turn doesn't use a special summon, Call of the Haunted doesn't special summon, like nothing special summons in this deck unless you need to go for an Xyz play, which usually you can hold off for because of traps. Duality ensures you get those really strong reactive cards when you need them and when the situation is perfect for them. So very, very important that you max out on this. It's ultimately the reason why I went for the Duality and Kuribandit package in this deck, is because I didn't want to have to deal with Brilliant Fusion preventing me from summon. Like, I really love Brilliant Fusion in this deck. You get to go normal your Myrmilio and then set up for an Xyz play with the Seraphinite at 5 with one of your artifacts, but Duality I just found was way too important, so that's just the route I decided to take. And then the Upstart Goblin, we would run 3 if possible, because this deck's fairly linear in what its main pieces are. You just want the Myrmilio, Sanctum, things like that, and you want to see them every game. Upstart helps you do that, but of course it's limited, so we're just playing the 1 and making do with it. Some power cards we can nicely search out are Raigeki and Soul Charge. Soul Charge is pretty much like Call the Haunted. You can't exactly use it as reactively, but it does let you put together big, dominating Xyz boards, and that's what this is for. You still get pluses off your Daineas, off of your Myrmilios, things like that, so that's really cool. And then Raigeki is, of course, just a way to make sure your monsters can actually do damage because your opponent's presence will be eliminated. These two are very important because you can fetch them off of that Kuribandit, and so your mills become a lot better when you play these powerful one-ofs. You're able to grab them as needed, pretty much, and so that's the cool thing there. And then two tech pieces that I like playing in my metagame. I play against Blackwings, I play against Monarchs with all their searching, I play against Synchro Strategy. So many decks will special summon or add cards from their deck to their hand without drawing them. So you run the two Thunder Kings. Obviously this is a great normal summon, which this deck is kind of lacking, so that's part of the reason why. 19 helps you do damage and helps you win games. You can back this thing up with all your back row as usual, but then the coolest thing is you can bring this back with Call the Haunted right when you need it, so you could stop your opponent's, Tenacity of the Monarchs as a chain link 2 effect. You can use this to stop your opponent's special summon if you bring it back right before the Synchro or Xyz summon. So I think Thunder King Ryo isn't for every metagame, but in my metagame it works exceptionally well. So if you find yourself in a similar environment, I encourage you guys to test that out. And then last 5 cards in the main will just be trap cards to stop the opponent. Fairly obvious we're playing the triple Solemn Strike and the 1 Solemn Warning, mainly because these are, they have no match in terms of how much power they have in stopping the opponent's plays. Pendulum summons, effects from the hand for all, these guys. Just any summon on Solemn Warning's case. These are very important key cards. You definitely want to maximize on them, if at all possible. And then finally, we have the 1 Compulse in the last slot, mainly because this is just able to get rid of things like Metal Foes Mithrilium without hitting it and sending it to the grave. It's completely flexible. It's just a nice one-of to be able to protect yourself from your opponent. If this thing were at more than 2, I'm not exactly sure. I may actually I may have considered playing this at 2 if it were allowed, just because it's a very flexible card. You can use it, reuse it on Myrmilio to get additional pluses. You can get rid of your Thunder King so you can start digging again. There are a lot of options with this card, so definitely like it as a one-of trick. And then to flesh out our extra deck, we're going to play some standard rank 4s and 5s. We're playing Abyss Dweller to hate the grave, Castel to get rid of problems on the board. Emerald is important because this lets you recycle all the things you want, so be it artifacts or more likely you're going to return your Myrmilios and your Dianeas. We have Cowboy to help us deal the extra damage and get over problematic monsters. Samurai gives us an additional attack, so that helps us plow through for damage. Main theme here is low monster count in this deck, high reactive trap count, so we're gonna get rid of all your opponent's threats and then start poking with the weak monsters we have. This will help us punch some holes in our opponent's life points. 80 is kind of like Abyss Dweller. It helps us get rid of our opponent's key cards, and then if we have another Xyz on the board, it'll just power that up, so double duty here. Don't go into it too often, but it's still, I think, a very good card to have because it does get rid of things that are planted in the grave, which Abyss Dweller in some ways just holds off for a turn. Honor Arc is extremely important in this deck because not only are you able to get rid of your opponent's special summon monster, but you use that as a shield, and because this thing's so hard to get rid of by battle or by card effect for destruction, it sticks around to do that 2100 damage, and that's really key again when you're low on monsters. You really want to make sure everything counts. Honor Arc gives you a lot of mileage, and usually I'll go for it over Castel in this deck, as long as I'm not, trying to hit a back row, which only Castel can do. Giant Hand is just a great stun monster. Overall, I wish it had higher stats, but I mean, it is what it is. It stops monster effects. Steel Swarm Roach is similar in that this stops special summon monsters, but it's totally free. It destroys it, which is much better than hand. And then both of these guys let you basically sit on your back row, remove your opponent's cards with your traps, and then you're able to go and punch for damage while your opponent isn't able to set up. So that's the whole point, to stun the opponent's plays. Last rank 4s are our Utopia package of 39 and Shining 39, the Lightning, so that's what that's for. And then 2 more rank 5s in addition to our Durandal and Pleiades will be our Tiras and Shark Fortress. So this is actually something that I saw buddy D Zeef doing. I really do agree with this over the Volcasaurus and the Gaia Dragon Thunder Charger. And reason for this is I used to play Shark Fortress like in my Cyber Dragon deck and stuff. I used to try Tiras, but I could never bother fitting it in. And then what I realized is Volk is nice because you get to remove your opponent's card, buy an effect, and you deal a bunch of damage. And then you follow that up with Gaia Dragon for a ton of extra damage. Well, Shark Fortress lets any of your monsters, including itself if you want, attack twice for the turn. So you can do a lot of OTKs with just this card. You don't necessarily need the Volk Gaia Dragon for the damage aspect. But Shark Fortress has a defensive part where only this monster can be attacked, so that means you're a Murmillo play you do. You're not going to die if you just leave it in an attack position and your opponent has a giant monster, because you fetch your trap card, this is the only thing that can be attacked, and now you can use your trap to protect this guy, or you can just attack with this for extra damage. Like, it has a defensive aspect, so your opponent's not able to attack your Murmillo. They can't attack your Thunder King, which is very annoying. Very powerful card. And then Tiras is interesting because it has a removal effect. Pretty much, I think of this guy as like the Mario Starman. As soon as he hits the board, he's invincible for 2 turns, and every time he battles, he kills something, so you're able to use this guy and really get rid of your opponent's key pieces, including their back row, which is something Volcasaurus can't do. And because he has that can't be destroyed by, card effect ability, it really does have a lot of pressure placement on the opponent. Like, they have to get rid of this if at all possible. Unless they can go Castel, they can't do anything, and if you go and like block their Castel with one of your traps, then they're in big trouble. So Tiras, probably not the most optimal choice in terms of just like a random deck. You're making a rank 5, hope it sticks. But with all the traps, you're limiting your opponent's options. This thing's a huge behemoth. Definitely recommended. And between the two of these, I mean, like, you get more mileage out of your rank 5s. That's the big idea here. You get the removal, you get the damage, but you get the defense in both of these. And I really think having these options is superior to having Volcasaurus, which is just way, way too vulnerable. Of note are Durandal and Constellapleiades. I know I threw these in here earlier, but I just want to mention like their special roles in this deck. So the cool thing is both of these are usually searched off, or summoned rather, by Call of the Haunted. And there's a great interaction where Durandal has 2 effects. You can either shuffle both players' hands and have them redraw. Cool magical mallet effect to fix your hands and hurt your opponent's hands. But the second ability is anytime your opponent activates a monster spell or trap effect, you can pretty much just shift it into destroy one of your, like the owner of Durandal's back row. So if you played Call of the Haunted to bring back one of your artifacts, then this is just sitting here dead when you exceed for Durandal. You shift it to this, your opponent can't Raigeki, they can't play power cards like Soul Charge, they can't, use 1 Pendulum Scale per turn or whatever. Like, you're actually able to stop a lot of things using the Durandal and the dead Call of the Haunted, which is something I tried to exploit with Brilliant Fusion. That's one of like the main reasons I really wanted to play the Artifact Durandal with Brilliant Fusion, but again, I just said I need the consistency, that's why I chose the Bandit route with dualities. But yeah, definitely you would like the Call of the Haunted because it triggers all your artifacts, lets you summon this, and then this lets you protect between the two. And then Pleiades is interesting because if you summon this using an artifact, you get to just bounce the Call of the Haunted back and then reuse it for other plays. So going Pleiades not only puts pressure on the opponent because now they have to struggle just to get a monster to stick on the board, but you're able to reset your Call of the Haunteds, and then that can let you go for a second play. So it's very likely like you'll be able to do something like this where you go into one Xyz and then follow up with the other because you're able to make the most out of Call of the Haunted. Really, if you wanted, you could consider bumping Call of the Haunted up to 3. The main reason I didn't want it at 3 is because I felt with Duality at 3 and with Kuribandit at 3, I'm able to get into this fairly quickly and consistently, and I'd rather not clog my draws with too many of these things in the early game. Like, late game, they become amazing, but early game, if you can access 1, that'll be great. Just get a stun monster. You don't necessarily need to set 2 of these things at once. If you watched the video in its entirety, thanks! Hopefully you guys enjoyed this profile just as much as I did putting the deck together. Well, let's get started with the alphabetical list, shall we? So we have 2 Artifact Begall Tack, 1 Lancia, 1 Moral Tack, and 2 Artifact Scythe. We're following that up with triple Kuribandit, double Thunder King Ryo, double Dionea, and triple Traptrix Murmillo, so a fairly slim monster lineup. For our spells, we run triple Ignition and double MST, along with 3 Pot of Duality, 1 Raigeki, and 1 Soul Charge, and then 1 Upstart Goblin for maximum consistency here. For our traps, we run 3 Artifact Sanctums, 1 Bottomless Trap Hole, double Call of the Haunted, 1 Compulsory Evacuation Device, 3 Solemn Strike, 1 Solemn Warning, and then your choice of trap holes other than the Bottomless. I run the Time Space and the Void Trap in my metagame or play environment I play in, but feel free to experiment with like Floodgate Trap Hole's a good one, Deep Dark's pretty good, additional copies of Time Space, or, you know, whatever you'd like. For the extra, we go with 1 Abyss Dweller, 1 Castel, a Daigusto Emerald, Gagaga Cowboy, and Samurai. Number 80 Rhapsody and Berserk, 101 Silent Honor Arc, 106 Giant Hand, Steel Swarm Roach, all about that stun. Number 39 Utopia, Shining 39 the Lightning. And then for our rank 5s, we have Artifact Durandal, Constellar Pleiades, Tiras, Keeper of Genesis, and Shark Fortress. So that's going to do it. 40 cards in the main, 15 cards in the extra. Let me know down in the comments below what you think about this deck. If you have any specific questions, don't forget to go back and see my reasoning in the step-by-step construction of this deck. Hopefully that answers most of your queries. And then if there is anything left over, feel free to let me know down below and I'll get back to you as soon as I can. If you want to see more of this series, you can also find the link to more deck profiles down below, or you can find the playlist on my channel if you're feeling a little more adventurous and like to go explore. Thanks guys, this is JD Gaming, hope you guys enjoyed, and I'll see you guys next time.